Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to be taking a look at the next section in our chapter. And so we are taking a look at section 9.4, which is titled Zeros of Polynomial Functions. So today there's not going to be very many notes because a lot of what we're going to be doing is actually learning how to find zeros, which are the x values in our calculator. So far we've been dealing with quadratics, and even yesterday we were dealing with quartics, which are kind of versions of a quadratic. And we've been doing a bunch of different things. We've used many different methods, and all for the same reason, to find the value of x. So we've done things like factoring a polynomial to find the x values. We've done things like completing the square to find the x values. And we've done things like using the quadratic formula to find the x values. And these are all great methods, but a lot of these require algebra that can easily be done. The reality is that sometimes you might have, like in the actual real world, quadratics show up all the time, but they're not, textbook problems. They're not nice numbers that work out perfectly when you factor or something like that. And the reality is that a lot of times these equations that are quadratics actually have a lot of decimals in them. And so we're going to take a look at how to solve quadratics in one more way, and that is using our graphing calculator. So make sure you have your graphing calculator. I'm going to go ahead and just show you what a zero is first. So I'm using Desmo, so you can see that on the right side of the screen here. And I have this equation, y equals 3x squared, so we can see that it's a quadratic, plus 4x minus 8. And quadratics always create this shape right here, which we call a parabola. I'm sure you guys have heard that before, a parabola. Sometimes it can be upside down. So the only thing you need to do to make it upside down is your a value, the coefficient of x squared, just has to be made negative. And there we go. Now it's flipped. It's upside down. So I'm going to keep it positive for now because what I want to show you is that a zero is just another name for an x value. So if I'm using Desmos, these 2 points right here where the parabola crosses the x-axis, those are what we would call our zeros. Those are the values of x that if I were to take this value right here, negative 2.431, if I were to take that x value and plug it into my equation, I would end up with a true statement. Same thing would happen if I used this x value. So in a quadratic, we always have two, well, not always, but usually we have two x values that will actually solve this equation. Now remember that y would have to be 0 when we're actually solving this. So these 2 points right here, the points that cross the x-axis, so the intersection of the parabola with the x-axis, which only happens right here and right here for this equation, that's what we're going to be looking for on our calculators. And it's always going to change based on the equation that we have. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to do that. I'm going to open up Delta Math, and we're going to look at this equation right here. So you can see this is definitely not something that we can factor, definitely not something that we want to complete the square with, and probably not the easiest to use a quadratic formula with. It's doable, but because of these decimals, it might be a little bit more complex. So I'm going to show you how to do this on the calculator. So the first thing that we want to do is over here on the left side, make sure you're following on the calculator. Make sure that you have your y equals. You're going to click y equals. This is going to keep jumping back and forth, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to go ahead and clear what I have there. Make sure there's nothing in any of your y's. So you're going to, if you do, go ahead and just use your cursor, go up and down, all right, and just press clear, and that will clear whatever equation you have there. All right, so we're going to plug in this function right here. Now, where they have f of x, that's the same thing as y. Okay, so we're going to plug in negative 1.2, so negative 1.2, and then we have x squared, and then we have plus 3.9x, so plus 3.9x, and then we have plus 3.3. Okay, and what we're going to do is we are going to press the graph button. And we can see, it's a little bit zoomed in, but we can see that it's forming this shape of a parabola. So what we can do to fix that a little bit, if you would like to, is you can click on window. I'm sorry, not window, zoom. And option number 6, which is Z standard, is going to give you like a basic, almost like a 10 by 10 window. So if you click on option number 6, now you can see the full parabola shape. And it's upside down, which makes sense because our A coefficient in front of x squared is negative. So that's a cool thing to kind of know. So now let's go ahead and figure out what are these x values. Now, we cannot guess and say that this is, for example, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though it's super close to 4, I can't just claim that it's exactly 4. It's probably not. It's probably some decimal, especially given this equation that's in all decimals. So we're going to use the calculator feature that's going to exactly calculate our 0. So we want to use this calc option right here, which is right above trace. So I'm going to press the second button first. So second, and then trace, which brings up my calculate menu. And I want to choose option number 2, 0. So 2, and there we go. Now what I want to do is use the arrows. I'm going to just hover over as close as I can. I want to go over that first 0, right? This is our first 0. This is our second 0, which is our answers for x. And we don't want to trust that this is close enough because we really need the exact answer. So what the calculator is asking us is to go left bound of that point. So I'm going to click to the left twice, 1, 2. You could even do it a few more times if you're comfortable with that, but 2 is fine. And you're going to press enter. Now I'm going to go back to that point that is the 0, that I think is the 0. And now it's telling me to go right bound. So I'm going to go to the right. So I'm going to press the right arrow a couple times. 1, 2, let's go a third time, 3. And you can see it looks like I'm only above the point, but I'm technically to the right of this point. It's very, very minute, but I am to the right of that point. So I'm going to press enter. And then the calculator tells me to take a guess. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. That's close enough. Enter. All right, so here we can see that the y value is 0, but what we're looking for is this x value. X, that point right there that is on the x-axis, is this point negative 0.6967 and so on. So in Delta Math, we are going to round to the nearest hundredth. So that's 2 decimal places. So I'm going to do negative 0.6. And we want then 2 decimal places, so that 9.6, that 6 is going to round this up. So this is actually 70. All right, 69 rounds up to 70. Now we're going to do the same process because we have a second 0 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do second trace, which is the calc feature, and I'm going to press option number 2. All right, so I'm going to go use my arrows. I'm going to go all the way to the other 0. Whoops, I went too far, right there. And I want to follow the directions on the calculator. It says go left bound of that point, so I'm going to go to the left a couple times. 1, 2, well, let's try 3 times. Press enter. I'm going to go back to the point, and now it says go right bound. So I'm going to go to the right a few times, press enter. Essentially, what this is actually doing is it's creating a boundary around that 0 so that it calculates only the 0 that is within those boundaries. And it doesn't accidentally calculate this other 0 again. So that's why we're creating this boundary. My guess is right there, right on top of the 0. Press enter, and here we go. My next 0 has a value of 3.946 and so on. So what I'm going to do in Delta Math is I'm just going to press the plus button. It's going to give me another box to put an answer in. So 3.9, and that should round up to 5. All right, so let's go ahead and submit our answers. Yes, I'm sure. And there we go, our correct answer. So that's all there is to this lesson today. What I would suggest is if some of this is a little bit, if some of this was a little bit unclear, I would say go back, rewind, and rewatch the video so that you can follow these things step by step. I'll also have everything posted on our class site. All right, so that's it for today.